Back in 2012, when you hosted on Airbnb, you would just put a home with a bed and then you made money and people were willing to pay more than what they were willing to pay for a hotel. Those days are sort of over. And now you need operational discipline. Guests are expecting the same types of touch points and services they would when they're booking hotels. I think a lot of the software out there focuses on distribution, but everything that happens after, that's when 90% of your team is, that's when 90% of the effort is. And when you have 300 homes, you don't have 25 marketers, but you do have 25 housekeepers. There's definitely more that can be done there.
We'll start the show in just a minute, but first, a word from our premier brand sponsor, Grand Welcome.
Hi, I'm Joseph Cox.
I'm Denise Turner, and we are franchise owners in multiple locations. We've been with Grand Welcome since 2021, so 4 years now.
We chose the franchise route just because it was so great that all of the back-end stuff can be handled by someone else. Really allows you to focus on the guest experience and your clients as well in taking care of their needs. The reason we chose Grand Welcome ultimately was the people and the experience that we had. The first few calls that we had with Grand Welcome, we really felt a connection to them, and their brand really fit what Denise and I were looking to create in our vacation rental business.
What we love most about Grand Welcome is having the support, knowing that there are people there behind us, pushing us to grow and to do better, and then just knowing that we have all the technology and tools at our fingertips. Since working with Grand Welcome, we have expanded our territories. Last year in 2024, we purchased the Palm Springs and Santa Barbara territories. And then this year, we have just recently purchased Bend in Central Oregon and Winter Park in Grand County, Colorado. And we do have plans to grow future.
Grand Welcome really allows you to operate and run your own business by supporting and handling all of the back end things. They have a solid team and a solid system and practice in place already. So you're not recreating the wheel. And really it's all of that knowledge and the things that they have built over time that supports franchisees to be able to focus on the properties, getting out to the properties and taking care of them without being tied down with all of the administrative processes behind the scenes.
We would definitely recommend Grand Welcome to others just because we know that the support is there. And so for those who are trying to do it on their own and having to deal with all of the things that go with that, for us, it just makes sense to have the support of the franchise behind us. It's a national company. So from a marketing standpoint, that really helps our business as well.
Click the link in the description to get a free growth hack analysis and a P&L evaluation. And make sure to tell them you heard about this offer on the Alex and Annie podcast. Welcome to Alex and Annie, the Real Women of Vacation Rentals. I'm Alex.
And I'm Annie.
And we are joined today by Simon Seroussi, who is the co-founder of SuiteOp. Simon, it's so nice to see you and to meet you today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be on. Been following you guys for many years, so it's awesome to finally get on here.
Well, great. Well, we're excited. And as we mentioned off camera, Terry White spoke very highly of you and your technology. And so whenever Terry White speaks, I mean, he's, you got to listen, you got to go check it out. So I reached out to you and we're really fascinated to hear your story. So why don't you give us a little bit about your journey in vacation rentals? Because you said you started out in the property management side of it. And tell us how you got where you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, 10-10 on Terry. He's I think everything he says needs to be either put on a wall or paid attention to carefully.
So yes,
very, very grateful that he mentioned us. So I think our journey started, it's actually almost more than a decade ago. I was back then living in New York and living what many consider the early 20s dream in a tiny studio, overpaying for rent. And I'm French, so every time I used to go back home in France to visit family, I effectively left an empty apartment behind. And it was always heart-wrenching to leave what felt like an empty hotel room because back of napkin math basically told me I was paying $70 a night to leave an empty home at all times. That's exactly around that time in which I discovered actually Airbnb initially. The company was pretty young back then. I think they were probably doing $30 million of revenue versus I think $11 billion this year.
Right? Yeah.
And a lot of people saw it as like a great way to travel. I also saw it as like a great way to make real estate more efficient. It just seemed crazy to me, all the empty real estates in the United States. I think like more than 10% of US homes are empty. It led me to start hosting initially as an individual host, and eventually a turning point a couple of years later when myself and a co-founder, Jean-Manuel, also French, started and launched a property management business based in the Northeast, based in Philadelphia, a short-term rental brand by the name of SoSuite. And from the get-go, we wanted to take a different approach than I think a lot of our competitors, which was to try and take everything in-house. We wanted to really understand operations, from housekeeping all the way to up to maintenance and guest experience. And around that same time, I was actually building software for hotels, a company called TravelClick, which is a pioneer in the space. And so travel was sort of everywhere in my life, and I wanted to understand the operational side of things a lot more. What hotels, what short-term rental operators and vacation rental operators actually went through every day. So I felt like I just really only had one side of the coin, and so we built that business, bootstrapped and grew it. But when we started hitting the 100-ish property mark, I think we learned something pretty crucial, and it's the fact that it's at the end of the day, it's a human capital heavy business, and the fact that it is so wonderful, but it's also what makes it so hard to scale. When your team grows, especially if you're spread across many locations, like vacation rental operators are, adding more staff, it's not just about hiring; it's about managing an operation that becomes increasingly complex. And so given like our tech backgrounds, my co-founder and I, he's an engineer and a mathematician. I'm more of a digital product person. We both love technology, and we really see it as a way to augment human capital, like improve what humans can do, enable humans to focus on things that are actually really rewarding as opposed to repetitive. And we figured out that there must be some great tools out there. So we tried a lot of things out there, and don't get me wrong, I think there's a lot of fantastic solutions. We're lucky to be in a space where there are just so many innovators, both on the operation side and on the technology side. But I think the issue we had, especially at a certain scale, was that best in class solutions, they might speak to the PMS, but they didn't really talk to each other. And so you had on one hand a property management system that did a good job at managing your inventory and your bookings. But when it came to screening guests, managing communication, smart devices, tasks, everything else in your operation, once the booking actually comes through, you had all those softwares that sort of didn't necessarily communicate, and so sort of felt like having all those really smart people in a room who all like spoke almost a different language. And so we started thinking that there could be something that we could do about it. That's how SuiteOp was born. It started as an internal tool, but it actually ended up helping us grow the business from 100 units to almost 400. And then over the last 14 months, it grew into something much bigger and its own company. And so I think we are technologists at heart. So I think we really know what operators needed to scale without losing their minds or losing their margins. So we built the product that we wish we had. It's an operations and guest experience platform that effectively takes care of everything that you need to handle operationally after your booking comes through. And for a guest, it's also a seamless experience. So you get a beautiful branded portal that has everything the guest needs to know and much more. You have a screening process that was really rethought from the ground up so that it's not so much of a frustrating experience for guests, but actually one that enriches their booking experience. And then we also handle things from smart devices all the way to an operational platform to keep the team in sync. So your guests, your field operations teams, your office staff, nobody's sort of left wondering what needs to be done. So yeah, that's how SuiteUp came to be over the last year and a half or so.
Wow. Yeah, no, what a great story. And we were talking about before we hit play, we hear this story time and time again that a lot of the best tech in the industry, it comes from people that they built it because they had a need, right? And so to be able to understand that, that's typically the softwares and systems that stick around and have the, the most adoption and your customers really loving what you do. It's because you have that understanding and you're building it for what really needs to be done. So I think that's really cool. But just looking at your website, I mean, you guys, this is actually, I mean, this is far more than just a guest portal. I mean, you're connecting a lot of different parts between the smart home technology as well. So maybe you could just kind of take us through like some of the main points of the system.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think what we realized was if you offered some of those solutions in isolation, you can get great products. And for many people that works. But ultimately there are ways to connect those things to both elevate your operation and your guest experience. And too often we see those two things as distinct. And so SuiteOp today has three main modules, as I like to call them. One is around IoT, the Internet of Things, anything related to smart devices. And that's going to be not just locks, not just thermostats, but even devices beyond that, lights and a couple of other device types. And the goal here isn't just being able to push codes that start at check-in and potentially expire at checkout. That's sort of the baseline of what we do. It's how do you enable the management of those devices and other automations around those devices that enable you to manage them more easily? Because ultimately, as an operation scales, You may start with one smart lock per property, and then you're going to add another one for your back door. Then you may add thermostats, then you may add smart TVs. And then as you scale and scale, you have a lot more devices than you have properties, and it becomes a bit unwieldy. They get disconnected, they go offline, they need to be replaced. And so how do you actually manage the maintenance of those devices? And that's where other modules in SuiteOp, like SuiteKeeper, which is sort of our task management module, can come in play. Our second most widely used one is around guest experience. That's split into guest screening and a guest portal. I think the word guest portal can take different meanings in the industry. We really tried to build a digital hub where the guest has everything they need in order to have a wonderful stay, all the information at their fingertips, but also that augments the other parts of SuiteOp. So for example, a guest can get on their guest portal and utilize all the smart devices that are available to you. So now your smart thermostat isn't just enabling you to push exactly the right temperature that the guest would want 30 minutes before check-in, enabling a comfortable stay. But it's also something that a guest can control from their mobile device using a web app all throughout their stay. Similarly, the guest screening portion of SuiteOp isn't just going to be about identifying guests and potentially problematic guests ahead of time. It's also going to be about collecting exactly the right data from the guest in order to improve automatically their guest experience. So if you know that it's a family coming, you're going to feature particular upsells in the portal. If the guest is having a particular issue, you can launch automations that is going to display particular information in there as well. And so really, I think what's unique isn't just seemingly having like all those three core modules next to each other, but it's what they do when they all interact, and that's when the magic of SuiteOp starts happening. And ultimately, we're building towards a vision where a product can really help you run your entire operations.
And looking at, and again on your website, I was looking at like the PMS systems that you are connected to right now. It kind of speaks to me that you're looking at more of the host profile, not a large scale enterprise size property management group. Would that be a fair assessment of where you are right now?
So actually, I mean, that's what's quite interesting about the platform is it's a platform that's definitely still built for scale, but we found that and originally it was actually intended largely for larger hosts. The first host that ever joined the platform had a couple hundred units under management, but what we actually quickly realized is that I think you have a new type of individual hosts that may manage 1, 2, 10, 5 homes. And they want to get things right from the start and set themselves up for success for potentially growing their business. They're not, they may be happy at 5 today, but they may want to grow it to something more. It's still potentially something they do on the side next to a full-time job. It could also be their home and their family's home that they're managing, but they want to be able to give themselves the most freedom by having tools that automate a lot of the things that would be redundant otherwise, and getting time back either for their personal life or to improve the guest experience. So we have those kind of hosts that represent probably about 30% of people using SuiteOp. But I would say the majority are professional operators, anywhere from our average current operator, unit count on the platform per user is about 85. And that's again pretty wide range from one property all the way to 1,000 plus.
Yeah, well, that's good. I like I said, at first glance, it just looked like, okay, it's kind of you're in that other side of things. So it is nice to know that you can scale up to the larger operators. I notice on here that you look at, I mean, it's just cool to see all the technology that is connected to this. But you're going to be doing, I guess, like booking engines and things. So are you looking to integrate? Like, I work at a channel manager. I'd be curious. Like, are you looking to integrate a channel manager within your platform?
Yeah, so we're not looking to necessarily handle the inventory and availability and rates of a business, like whether it's pricing, whether it's like managing your inventory the way a PMS does it. But I think what we found is the direct booking is something obviously crucial. It's been a topic of conversation for
Mhm.
years. Back then, when I was working at TravelClick in 2016, I was building products for that because hotels, and that was a top one concern. It's like we're paying 20% to OTAs. We need to do something better. And I think back then with hotels, you didn't have that many great direct booking solutions. Today, which with I think vacation and short term rentals, you have solutions, but they tend to fit often one mold. So it's if you're an operator with unique homes and assets, then potentially your PMS's booking engine will work really well. But if you're an operator with different assets, maybe apartments in the same building, as well as unique homes, and you want to merchandise that in a bit of a unique way, you often don't have flexibility in sort of out of the box booking engines. And so our booking engine is going to connect to the PMSs that we integrate today, and PMSs will integrate to in the future, enabling operators to have another option. The main, I think, reason also we're diving into the booking engine world is because we believe that direct bookings is where loyalty starts. And it's where loyalty can also be like built on. You can have a guest that book on Airbnb, but obviously what you're going to want to do is build enough of a branded experience and personalized experience that the next time they come, they want to book direct. And so the booking engine is actually going to be for us the foundation of what's going to become a loyalty program. And probably one of the first in the industry, enabling any size operator to launch more loyalty around their brand.
Wow.
Very cool. I know that's a hot topic right now, and our dear friend Tyann, Marston Cammon, she's been working on something. If you haven't talked to her, definitely need to talk to her. She's really working on some loyalty things, but that's kinda like the one piece of the puzzle I think people haven't been able to figure out.
We'll be back in just a minute, but first, a word from our premier brand sponsor, Track.
So my name's Gay Weber. I'm with Carolina Mornings Luxury Vacation Rentals. Track really caught my eye as a developing partner, as a company that was going to be building more solutions and adding to their product more quickly. Also really liked Track's all-in-one philosophy as opposed to a best-in-class. We really like having everything all under one roof in Track, and it all works well together. Major selling feature for me personally was the triggers and automations, and we make extensive uses. We have over 400 running each day, and that is that open-ended philosophy of allowing us to develop our own solution within Track as opposed to having canned options was a really driving force for us. The transition from Navis over into Track was pretty seamless. The system is simple but powerful. One of my favorite things is the little icon of what's new. And it's every day there's an update of something new. That's the mark of a software company that's moving quickly and fast, and that's what brought us to Track over Streamline ultimately.
Ready to take your operations to the next level? Get a free market assessment, a $400 value that gives you a clear picture of how your business stacks up against the competition. You'll meet one-on-one with a Track expert who will evaluate your performance in the context of your market, uncover gaps and opportunities, and deliver 3 to 5 actionable insights tailored to your business. This is your chance to find out what's working, what's not, and where you can improve based on real market data. Click the link in the description to get started today.
I think it's a challenging piece because, unlike big hospitality brands that may have global presences or nationwide, it's a lot easier for Marriott to say, you get points with us if you book in Texas, and then the next time you travel around in New York, you're going to get points as well, and you can use those points all across those locations. When you're an operator, whether it's a family-run operation or a larger operation, and you operate in one particular city or one particular area, how do you drive a loyalty program that works there? So I think we've been asking those questions for a couple of years. We launched a beta loyalty program with SoSuite about our first company about 4 years ago. And it's built on the PMS, using a lot of the native PMS functionalities, but leveraging it in a way so that when a guest books, they create a profile on your website. There's already an attachment there. They're accumulating stays and nights, and then they can unlock, unique benefits as a result. And I think we have to rethink what those benefits are. It's not necessarily an earn and burn point system that you would see in like traditional loyalty. It's maybe more, I've stayed with you before. This time around, I automatically get a free early check-in, or I get, a welcome package. And how do you then tie all those pieces together? Well, potentially with a guest portal or with a task management to inform your team that those things may be occurring and that you can action on that.
Yeah, no, that all makes complete sense. It sounds like you guys have really thought this through in a very thorough way. So you're not just answering one part of the equation, but really looking at it holistically. I am curious. You said you worked at Travel Click, and back in those days, so way back in the day, they had acquired Z Direct. I don't know if that was part of
Yeah.
when you were there, but yeah, that was the email marketing program we used for years. And then became part of Travel Click. So definitely familiar with that whole operation there. And God, I mean, they became a behemoth within the industry. So you probably got to see some pretty cool stuff and learned a lot in those days, I would bet.
Yeah, and I think in many ways, like what we're witnessing now is a lot of what they were doing. It's like, to your point, that TravelClick initially started as a business intelligence tool, and then added direct reservations product and what we call the CRS in the hotel space, which is basically a PMS. And then to your point, eventually they were like, okay, well, how do we bring guest loyalty, guest experience into that? And so they acquired Z Direct and tried to tease that together with their existing stack. I went through, yeah, it was quite an adventure at TravelClick. When I was there, it was a private equity owned company. I went through a successful sale to another private equity owned company, and then ultimately joined Amadeus, the European travel giant. Stayed there for about a year, and then decided that the startup world was more my thing.
Yeah, very different though, right? I mean, being in that's like big corporate America tech to
Yeah.
now what you do. I imagine you probably like what you do now a little bit more, but a lot more freedom at least to be able to build all the things that you've seen that could be better over the years is just really fulfilling, I would imagine.
For, s- for sure, yeah. No, I think what was interesting is like I think a lot of what we're experiencing in the vacation rental space mirrors a lot what hotels experienced 5, 10 years ago. We're seeing, I think, this uh, the professionalization of the space, obviously, in short-term and vacation rentals, is leading to operators starting to ask the same questions that hotels that have faced increased competition and or regulation and other similar challenges some time back were asking. So I think we're seeing an interesting intersection of the two industries there. And in fact, I think COVID only accelerated that because hotel groups now are thinking, this vacation rental thing is interesting. I want a piece of that, and you see Marriott successfully launching Marriott Homes and Villa. You see hotels launching soft brands in this space, and I think you see the opposite too, right? We have a lot of customers at SuiteOp, with one Beachside VR to name a few that are like started building like incredible vacation rental portfolios, and they're now also doing successfully boutique hotels. They have a boutique hotel thing in Savannah. They have a couple in Florida, and so you're seeing that intersection of the two spaces, I think, in a really special way.
I just spent several days down in Orlando meeting with partners, and Orlando is one of those like really, really strong hybrid markets where the companies are sitting in both spaces. And it was interesting because one of the groups I was meeting with, the head of the revenue team, he comes completely from the hotel side, so he's like, "This is my first like foray into vacation rentals." He's like, "I'm still learning so much," and I had started in hotels and went to vacation rentals. So, like I told him, I was like, "There's so many similarities," but to your point about like COVID, one of the things that I noticed is that some of the technology that was able to be built during COVID actually catapulted vacation rentals ahead of the hotel side, specifically where you're related to like revenue management tools and content, like managing content. And so what I find is funny is that the PMSs that we work with, as an example, on the VR side, they manage content so we can grab that content and send it to the channels. But on the hotel side, content is managed completely separate from the PMS. So hotel people, you think about vacation rentals have a tech stack that's crazy. Like hotel people really do. I mean, I was talking to this group and they have like 4 channel managers. They have 2 content systems. They have a different PMS for every property. And it's just like it's bedlam. Like it's complete chaos to try to think that you can get anything done. And so I feel like vacation rentals is a little further ahead in some areas, but to your point, we're all going through all the same things, just at different, different, I guess, different pace.
Yeah, I would add contactless technology to that. Like I think like vacation rentals really heralded that. Like 5, 10 years ago, it was so rare to be able to complete a pre-check-in before booking into a hotel, and actually being able to like either walk straight to your room and skip the front desk or get your key in like less than 30 seconds without a line outside. I think COVID obviously accelerated that. People wanted contactlessness, like contactless, like experiences. Now we're back to yearning for the complete opposite. But that obviously led to, I think, yeah, technology being built there that highly influenced the hospitality, traditional like hotel industry in ways that I think was really unexpected. And I think the other part of the equation is since obviously after 2020 we saw a boom in vacation rentals, right? In 2021 we saw a slowdown. In 2020 we saw a boom. In 2021 increased competition. But I think like a really important thing to that operators have been, and I think really facing over the last few years, is obviously increased competition and professionalization, as well as just increased guest expectations. Back in, I would say, 2012, when you hosted on Airbnb, you would just put a home with a bed, and then you made money, and people were willing to pay more than what they were willing to pay for a hotel because you had a kitchen and it felt more homey. That those days are sort of over, I think, and you need operational discipline, and you need to really, guests are expecting the same types of touch points and services they would when they're booking hotels, because because I think we're finding that guests are booking both. You have some people that will exclusively book vacation rentals and short-term rentals, but you have a lot of people that are now just alternating between both, and the mix of that is leading to expectations also greatly changing. And I think that's why there's a new wave of software, which I think SuiteOp is part of, trying to help operators get that discipline and being able to have incredible guest experiences that match that of like great hotel brands, but also like highly measured and calculated operational discipline.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, it's something that's not talked about enough in the industry of just understanding what the guest journey truly is and mapping that out. And I see a lot now in my consulting business, if a company is using a PMS and their email automations go out of that system and they haven't looked at them in a few years in a lot of cases, and it's like they're getting an email from, the automated confirmation email, but then they're getting a text message from Breezeway and then another app over here they've got to download, and it's overwhelming. And I think, that's the hardest part of this industry is just like, companies, they're property management companies. They should be managing properties. They shouldn't have to be a CMO, a CTO, and have to know all these different things to be property managers. But it's like there's so much just choice that's out there. And I think, Annie, I told you this story the other day. I was at the dentist, and this was kind of like an old school kind of dentist that they did everything by pen and paper. And I was in there and they were all kind of stressed out because they had just implemented technology essentially that they had iPads and stuff. And he was telling me about, the onboarding process and how it was just so stressful. And I said, well, how many systems did you have to evaluate? And he said, one. There's only one. Like all the dentists in the country use the
So there
same
wasn't any
system.
choice.
So it's like that makes it a lot easier, but
That sounds great.
certainly not the case in our industry. We'll be back in just a minute, but first, a word from our premier brand sponsor, Homes and Villas by Marriott Bonvoy.
My name is Dylan Gibbs. I'm a director of revenue for East West Hospitality. What made Marriott Bonvoy an appealing partner for East West Hospitality, besides the team over there being fantastic to work with, they also have really strong brand recognition and customer loyalty. They're a top-notch hospitality brand, making memories for really millions of guests annually, and that really aligns well with our brand and our vision. As we are a luxury vacation rental management company, we're consistently seeking new distribution partners to get our properties in front of the right guests at the right rate at the right time. They provide exactly the opportunity to do that. We're seeing that Marriott provides for us ongoing support around curation, auditing, and optimization of our listings, which is a huge one. Besides describing it as a dream to work with their team, super responsive. They're definitely very reactive when we need them to be, but they're very proactive as well. Partnering with Marriott Bonvoy has been tremendously beneficial. They are a top producer as far as connected channels go, and the ability to utilize points to spend those points to book a luxury vacation home, that can't be overstated as a benefit of their platform. It is a huge benefit, both for the guest and for us. We have absolutely noticed a difference in the types of guests that HBMB brings to the table with how well-traveled the guests tend to be. They're very organized, very thoughtful in considering their accommodations. They have a little bit higher expectations, but that's absolutely what we bring to the table as well. Our homeowners have resoundingly been pleased with the partnership, really delivers significant value. A lot of the homeowners are also HBMB members. They travel a lot, so they know what HBMB is all about. Really, they've been very happy and with the level of care that the typical HBMB guest has for the property, treating our homeowners' homes like it's their own home. If a property manager is not currently using HBMB, if you're on the fence about signing onto the program, I would highly recommend doing it. You've already worked through all the due diligence and talking to the team. The Marriott partnership has been a huge success for us. Distribution, listing management, and hosting through the platform are all very easy and really give you access to fantastic clientele.
Ready to take your property management business to the next level? Go live with Homes and Villas by Marriott Bonvoy by August 4th, 2025, and receive Marriott Bonvoy Platinum status for 1 year, 36,000 bonus points, and a marketing feature on a Homes and Villas marketing channel after you launch. Click the link in the description to get started today. So talk us through a little bit, like what does it actually look like if a company is using SuiteOp, a guest books a reservation, what does the guest see on the other side? Like where does SuiteOp come into that process?
Yeah, and I think, by the way, what you shared around the guest flow and the guest experience is such an important thing that can be second thought. And it's because I think a lot of the software out there focuses on distribution, like getting the booking in, right? Or pricing, right? Those were like some of the biggest softwares that came out of the last two decades. And but everything that happens after, that's when 90% of your team is, that's when 90% of the effort is. Now, it's not to say that revenue management and marketing, they're crucial, but and when you have 300 homes, you don't have 25 marketers, but you do have 25 housekeepers. And I think like building software that can be utilized by the rest of the operations is a lot of what we're as much as it is as guests is a lot of what we're trying to do and connecting those two. And so the way we do this from the guest experience perspective is, so when an operator uses SuiteOp, the first thing to note is I think we recognize that every operation is different. Some operators are high touch, concierge level type of service with $1,000 a night homes in the mountains, and others do $100 a night affordable rooms in urban areas. And there's a bit of everything there, and there's a bit of different services. And so we want to be able to first offer a product that someone can configure to fit that. And so what that means is when a guest books and someone is using SuiteOp, we can utilize either some of SuiteOp's native messaging or a lot of the PMS native messaging to be able to get the portal in front of guests. And I'm insisting on sort of PMS level messaging. It's because a lot of people don't want to add another unified inbox to their tech stack. Just like you said earlier, if a guest starts getting a text from one software and an email from another, and where does the guest answer? How do you make sure you have everything in one place? It's a bit unwieldy, especially at scale, but frankly at any size. So we want to be able to meet the operators where they already are. So if they're using the PMS messaging to send the message and to manage that, that's fine. They don't need another platform. They don't need to onboard something else there. And so all we do is we provide them guides and we help them alter a little bit their existing messaging to include a portal. That portal is going to be fully white labeled. In terms of enterprise options here, we have multi-white label options. So if you have like 5 brands or multiple boutique hotels and a vacation rental brand, you can have different links for different portals. That portal should be sent as soon as the guest books. And I think that's where SuiteOp is a little bit different than potentially other experiences. We want the guests to be able to interact with it as soon as they book, and we want to provide value as soon as they book. So they get the link, they open it, they're going to be invited to complete a pre-check-in flow, but they don't have to complete it right away. If they want, they can skip it and enjoy a lot of value in the portal. And that value comes in 3 main ways. They first have access to a local guide, beautiful map view, the ability to see what's around the property, from restaurants to museums, that can be entirely configured in just a few minutes by the property manager ahead of time. And it can be enriched with even smart call to actions like make a reservation there, etc. And we think it's really important to show this as soon as a guest books, because if you show it a week before check-in, they've already made their plans. They've already booked their restaurants. They've already planned their trip with their groups of friends or family. So the guest gets access to that. They also get access to information about the property, the amenities, various things, how-tos, etc. And being able to see this immediately, it gives the guests the clarity that if they have a question during their stay, this is where they can look. And I think ultimately, like, guests would rather have information at their fingertips than have to message somebody, wait for an answer, and exchange 2, 3 messages unnecessarily for, how to use this very complicated remote control for this older TV or this projector, for example. And then the third value that they get is going to be upsells. So there's going to be an entire section with upsells that's going to be both upsells you can deliver yourself, such as you can sell a welcome package, you can sell really anything you'd like that would make sense for your operation. Upsells that are also like where they don't require as much operational uplift, early check-ins and late checkouts. And we make this quite special with SuiteOp. For example, if we can display specific upsells depending on who the guest is, what the availability is like, and we can approve or auto-approve specific upsells based on specific rules as well. And because we have an IoT module, if an early check-in is approved, the code and on the lock can be auto-adjusted to function at the early check-in time, for example. So this is where sort of, again, we bring automation so that you don't need to have a human, once an upsell, an early check-in is approved, go to another software, change the time of the log from 4 p.m. to 1 p.m., and then make sure that it works, and communicate that back to the guest. Those are things that I think aren't enriching to anyone's role, and that a software should be able to easily handle. The guests, while they're accessing all of this, have a constant reminder that the pre-check-in is effectively pending, and that they need to complete it in order to unlock their check-in instructions. And so they can complete that pre-check-in, which is fully customizable based on who the guest is again. I may not want to require an Airbnb guest the same that I may want from a direct booking guest. I may have a bit more fraud risk for a direct booking guest because I'm handling the payment. So I potentially want more fraud protection there. But at the same time, it's also a bit of a VIP guest. And I want to potentially ask them specific questions that are a bit more unique to that stay to provide them with that more personalized experience. And so you can personalize that pre-check-in and as soon as it's completed, check-in instructions are released. The guest accesses all smart devices in the property. Obviously, with some still like blocking here, where they can't turn on the lights or unlock a door before check-in starts. And that experience, while it's happening on the guest side, is progressively enriching your operation. And that's because the guest is going to share things like their estimated time of arrival or their estimated time of departure. And so on the operations side, if you know that you have 30 check-ins that day and one of your housekeeper just called out, but you now know that a guest is checking out at 5 and three other guests are checking at 11 p.m., you can utilize that data operationally in your task management. So that's sort of how it flows from the guests. They can use that portal all the way till checkout. After checkout, the portal becomes a bit of your advertising platform for your direct booking engine. Essential data related to the stay is hidden, but it's still going to display things like how to book direct and encouraging those returning guests to do so in the future. So that's how sort of the back end and the front office functions can be linked. Effectively, the portal is sort of that central part of operation, and then it flows through your tasks. It flows through your IoT module and your various devices there.
So for the guest standpoint, is this all like internet based so that it's not an app? It just goes to a web link and it's all done there,
Correct.
right?
Yeah, it's going to feel like an app, but it's not going to be an app. So no downloads required. You can download a PDF. So some guests may want a PDF
Feeling
option.
like they have something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people like paper, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, white paper.
Yes, some folks also have homes that are like more remote and they may be less connection there. And so there is a clear option in the portal to download your check-in instructions as a PDF so that when you get there, if somehow there's absolutely no internet, you're still fine. Everything's locally saved on your phone. So we've sort of thought through some of those interesting use cases as we've onboarded customer with those interesting use cases.
Yeah. So how many customers are using the platform right now?
A couple hundred operators today. We've intentionally over the last year have had very measured growth. Our goal has been just building the best product we can, and to do so, I think we intentionally curbed how many demos we wanted to do and how many people we wanted to onboard on the platform. We used the last year because I think, as I shared, like every business is different, and so while we were operators, we didn't want to just assume that we knew everything. And we've met so many operators that have such different operations since, and have been able to build a product that is flexible enough to get practically any operation onboarded, from boutique hotels with 50 rooms to operators with 500 homes that don't have any reception or internet on site, and so we've sort of learned those different use cases and built the product accordingly.
And so where do you see this going from here? Is this something? Are you planning to go international? Is it just staying in the States? Like where do you want, or where are you focused on, I guess, for the next year?
Yeah, so I think, what's really magical about technology is the reach that you can have. And we've been really lucky to have customers almost all over the world. We have customers ranging from Asia Pacific, Australia, Southeast Asia, all the way to South America, North America, and Central and Eastern Europe. We even have some customers in North Africa at this point. So I think we're touching on almost every continent. And that's been really just fortunate. Our growth has been referral and word of mouth. People use the product. I think what I love about this industry is that operators help each other out. I think that's in large part due to just like the nature of the industry. If you operate properties in Kansas, why wouldn't you share tips with an operator friend who operates in another town? So ultimately, I think there's really great word of mouth in this industry. That's how I got here, right? Terry spoke about us.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's how we've been growing, and our ambitions for the next year are going to be, we definitely want to focus on the vacation and short-term rental market first. If we have a lot of more boutique hotels along the way, as we've had, that's great. It's a plus. But I think the space we're in is so interesting. It's changing so fast. It's growing so quickly, and it's a space that where my co-founder and I and the team is really passionate about. So we're going to continue growing with a bit of a focus on the US, but the platform is being used across the world, and we never close our door to somebody who knocks on it.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I love that. Well, super cool to hear all about SuiteOp. I think that's you speak very intelligently about the product, obviously know it very well. But really, really cool what you guys are doing. One question that we like to ask our guests, especially if it's somebody that we don't know and want to get to know a little bit better, but what's something in the industry that you don't feel is being talked about enough?
I think that in general, there is a lot more collaboration on the operator side of things that there potentially could be on the vendor side of things. I think that vendors in this industry, there's often an unspoken tension between property management systems and point solutions, or point solutions between them. And I think ultimately it's a large enough industry that there's room for a lot of people. That's what's beautiful about it. It's also an industry that's growing 10% year over year. So I think in general, if there could be more open dialogue between vendors to enable themselves to uplift each other and provide better services to their customers, that would be something that would be extremely helpful. I think there's often conversations around how to improve the end user's experience, the operator experience, or the guest experience. But that starts, and in a lot of those conferences, that starts with the quality of the service that a vendor can provide. And so I think that there's definitely more that can be done there.
That's a really great answer. And
Yeah,
being a vendor, if you were having problems, then like we should talk. But I agree with you. I think sometimes it gets so competitive because there's been such large investments made in some organizations. It becomes very siloed in terms of what they're doing. So I tend to agree with you there. I think there's a lot more opportunity than for us to work together than separately.
for
For
sure.
Yeah,
sure.
For sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, it's a big space, and I think we're just scratching the surface too. We're just there are new incredible markets that are growing really fast, like South America and even Southeast Asia, that most American vendors are barely addressing. So I really think that we probably would do all better that way than trying to work from behind closed doors more.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
No, totally agree. Totally agree with
Yep.
that. Oh, well, this has been awesome, Simon. So great to meet you. And I think you guys are going to do great things. So this is exciting. You're not new, but you're kind of new-ish on the scene. So hopefully we got you in front of some interested prospects here today. But if anybody wants to reach out, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Yeah, I mean, feel free to reach out to me directly by email, simon@suiteup.com. Schedule a demo, schedule some time. My demos, I can just tell you now, are not your typical, I think any of my customer can speak to that, sales qualifying call where I ask you 50 questions and then pass you on to someone else. I'm going to take, an hour or two, if needed be 3 hours to understand your business and show you the platform and explore all the different ways in which we can potentially help. We'll spend as much time looking at what we can do for you as much as looking at the platform in general.
Oh, that sounds great. Well, if anybody wants to get in touch with Annie and I, you can go to alexandanniepodcast.com. And until next time, thanks for listening, everybody.